Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome back to another brand new TA pod. This is where we're going to talk about the season that has just gone by, which should be quite an interesting one. We'll end on positive notes with some transfer stories that have come out over the last couple of days or so. But yeah, we're going to talk about the season. I've got Shigz, I've got Craig. But before I introduce these guys, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who subscribed, whether you've been subbed for a long time or whether you helped us get to the 1K mark last night, because there was a big push for that last night. Just want to thank every single person. I know to some people 1K might not be a lot, but to us it's something we've worked hard on. We've come a long way from recording these podcasts over Skype calls and just bringing terrible audio to Spotify, to be honest. But we're here now. This is the first milestone that we all wanted to reach. So absolutely massive thank you if you've just watched for 5 minutes, if you've watched every podcast. We're just massively grateful. So we have got a regular, somebody that's been on the podcast for a lot of times, and we've also got a new member of the panel, Craig, who was on one last week. But first of all, Shigz, fresh back from Portugal, how you doing, my friend? You're on mute. Let me just unmute you. I saw it. There we go.
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. The last game of the season, I was in Portugal and I was just like, up, happy days. And to get forward to, I was just like, oh, this is our season in a whole, basically. But yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Good. Well, yeah, I was actually at the game, so it was a bit of a mad one for me being there, and we'll get onto that game a little bit later on. But Craig, second time on the pod, mate. How are you, mate?
Very good. Delighted to be back, and hoping to, share the thoughts of you lads in the future as well. But yeah, that game, just what a way to sum up the season, really, in a way. It did the review for us, did it not?
Yeah, exactly. We could just talk about that game if we want to review the season. Big up, Allier. I like the profile of players that we are linked to. We're going to get onto those players a little bit later on. But guys, please make sure you smash the like button and subscribe if you are in here. Please, there's 23 of you. And I saw a stat. I looked on our channel analytics. 70% of the people that watch our streams are not subscribed. Imagine if you all subscribed. We'd be on like 1.52K. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, please. That would be absolutely fantastic. And Techers Dave, we are all good, mate. The sun is shining. The season's finally over. We can look forward to what we hope will be a successful summer for the Reds. But guys, we're going to take it right back to the start. We're going to review the whole season. We're going to take it right back to the start, Shigz. Obviously, me and you had the pleasure of being at Wembley last season. We saw Liverpool win a trophy, and we've seen two at Wembley, but everything was all good. Then we come into this season, we've earned ourselves a Community Shield, and that game comes. We beat Man City. Nunes dunks on Erling Haaland, as they say on Twitter, and everything was too good to be true, wasn't it?
You know what? It wasn't too good to be true. We was in a good position. We played normally we lose against Man City in the Charity Shield. Played a good game. That, like you said, Nunes dunked on Haaland. And to be honest with you, I was very optimistic. Like we played well. Trent scored. Salah scored a pen. Like we looked like our normal self. Like so at that stage, no one could say that there was anything to worry about. In my opinion, anyway, we looked like we were raring to go. So I was excited, but. Yeah, it didn't pan out the way we thought it would. But it was, like I said, I was looking forward to the Fulham game. Newly promoted, I thought, we're going to get easy, 3-1, if that. And then, it didn't go that way at all. At all.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in just a moment. But yeah, Craig, how did you see that, mate? We just beaten the champions at the King Power, because I can't remember, Wembley was being used for something else. Obviously, optimism was flowing. But do you think that performance and result kind of papered over the cracks that we were yet to come and see?
Yeah, big time. Like, we'll talk about it in the show ahead now. But as you've seen, it was our mentality towards the bigger teams in comparison to the smaller teams. We beat City even in the middle of our worst run at the start of the season as well. So I was definitely hindsight says over optimistic than what we thought at the time, because after genuinely I think everyone that nearly quad last year, let's go forward, Champions League or the PL, one of them, that would be what we should be aiming for this season. So skip past the 2 cups, but obviously not. But yeah, that was at the same time, I thought, you know, City were probably the better team as well, you know, on the day. But we got the results. But that's, you know, that's what we've been. That's where we got our success over the last few years, is being mentality monsters and not you know, winning matches that we didn't necessarily deserve to win as well. So anyway, you know, we got our heads up and we shouldn't have. But here, it was, you got to take your trophies when you get them.
Exactly, and you know, I think obviously we knew that there was issues, and we knew that, you know, there were still positions that we probably needed to address. I think everybody knew that, but I think equally, when you have beaten Man City, and yes, it was the Community Shield, it's not, you know, a major trophy or anything like that, I still feel like that, you know, you have every right to think, okay, even if we don't win the league, even if we don't win the Champions League, we might be there or thereabouts again. We might, well, nobody predicted that we would drop out the top 4. You know, you see all these people now saying, oh, I told you so. Well, nobody predicted us to finish out the top 4. So, you know, it was, the season actually ended worse than what people that weren't predicting us to have a good season even thought. So, yeah, I mean, what was to come, Shigz kind of alluded to it then, and we'll just move on to that, I guess. We went 3 games without a win at the start of the season, which Shigz, I think when we obviously won our title and when we've pushed City all the way until the end,
Came out the gates.
getting off to a good start was always pivotal. And we drew 2-2 away to Fulham. We drew 1-1 against Palace at home, and then we went and lost to Man United. So how much of an impact do you think not winning 1 game in 3 had for the sort of the rest of the season?
I don't think it was. I don't think it was the us not winning. It was more the performances in each of the games. Like, it was the performances were so disjointed. Like, the Fulham game was like, who is this team? Like we just, Fulham were bullying us, and it was just like, hold on a minute, we just played Man City a week before. Even though like Craig said, we didn't play the greatest, but it was still a recognisable Liverpool performance. And then we go to Fulham, and Fulham Mitrovic is bullying our defenders, like we're making him look like an £80 million striker, and it's like, what's happened to the team? So then we at the Crystal Palace game, I was a little bit disappointed, because I think wasn't that the game that Nunes got sent off?
Yeah,
and I think
he should have scored as well before he got sent off. Hits the post.
Diaz scored that good. Was it that game that Diaz scored? Yeah, but it was just like
solo goal,
we were pushing it, and it just felt like the goal wouldn't come, because even with the 10 men, we were still bossing the game, but it was just like, it was weird. Like for like a 20-minute spell would be on their neck, and then for the next 30 minutes it was just like, who is this team? Like, not being able to do 5-yard passes, and for even me, I'm not gonna lie. Excuse me. I still thought we would come out and then just be able to put one of our runs together, but it was just weird to see each of the games. And then United game, it was just like, we only started playing when we went 2-0 down, and it's like, what's going on here? Like, we're right back to the old Liverpool where we'd only played like in flits and starts. But yeah, it was a sign of things to come. But little did we know it would get worse before it would get better.
Absolutely. And Craig, you know, seeing Liverpool play in that first 3 games, for me, it just looked like the most disjointed. I don't know about you, but to me, it looked like the most disjointed Liverpool team that had started a Premier League season in a long, long time, because we all know that the hard work and the groundwork for a successful season is always pre-season, and it always carries on early into the season. And yeah, sometimes in pre-season, we don't get results and we lose and people will moan. But for me, it was always about fitness and getting the team ready. It just felt like last season, that didn't really happen this time.
Yeah, I thought this is counterintuitive, but you know, after the Community Shield when we won it and Klopp comes out, he says, we're ready. I was like, well, has he ever said that before? You know, like it felt a bit like, I know we're not ready. I want to just try and get this into their heads. You know, let's pretend we are ready to go. And obviously we weren't, you know, and he must have kind of known that himself if he was trying to, you know, make it happen. Yeah, you know, make it happen with words instead of on the training ground type of thing. So, you know, obviously stuff with Nunes and things like that, where we didn't know how long it would take him to adapt and all that, and we kind of thought, oh yeah, he'll just be like the other guys. If he's playing, he's adapting. You know, like, because we've seen Fabinho and things like that in the past. If they're not adapting, they don't play. but we weren't in a situation where we could, bench him for a while. Take that, like when we're at our best, we can take our time with our signings, but we didn't have that luxury this year. And I think there was a lot of red flags or flags coming up when Milner started in midfield against Manchester United and Old Trafford. That was heartbreaking in a way. And like I love Milner, but he's just shouldn't be starting those big games anymore. So that was definitely a sign of our situation and everything else of that. So the injuries definitely played a part early on. I hope that's why Milner was starting, as opposed to any other reason. But yeah, it took us a while, but thankfully, we actually got a result after those 3 games. It seemed like it wasn't going to happen.
No, we'll just move on to that one, mate. Our first one of the season comes against Bournemouth, and it felt like we saved all of our goals for this one game. We just absolutely obliterated them. Luis Diaz gets 2, Elliot, Trent, Bobby gets 2, Virgil, even Fabio Carvalho, who again we'll probably touch on later in this stream. And for me, Shigz, like I feel like this was foreshadowing what our season was going to be. At the end of a few bad results, we get one really good result, and we think, okay, now maybe we're going to turn a corner here.
Yeah.
And then, without going too far ahead, but we did get a couple of good results. We beat Bournemouth 9-0, then we beat Newcastle at 2-1. And by the way, after we beat Newcastle the second time at their ground, I think we was the only team to beat them in the season, and we'd done it twice. So again, really good team that we'd managed to beat. So for me, there was loads of these mini wins where it just felt like, okay, now maybe we're going to turn and kick on. But after battering Bournemouth and beating Newcastle, it just didn't happen, did it?
I don't know what happened. It's like Craig was saying earlier. It just felt like they started to believe their own hype. Like, oh yeah, we're back. And which is surprising because under Klopp, we've never taken anything for granted. It's always, okay, right, that game's gone. We move on to the next one. We focus on this one. And it just, I don't know, like, this is the first time under Klopp where I've looked at the team and I'm like, this don't look like a Klopp team. The energy don't look like a Klopp team. This is the first season where our midfielders actually been bullied. Like, proper, get off the ball. This is ours. You're not taking it off us. And it was just like, how in the space of 3 or 4 months have we gone from being nearly on the verge of winning a quad to struggling to keep the ball against teams that we should be battering? It was, and as well, Ben, on the spaces that we used to go on, there used to be so much infighting. This person's shit, this person's this person's this, and it's just like no one could put their finger on why everything wasn't gelling. The midfield was all over the place. The defense, again, 6s and 7s, and to be honest with you, this preseason, I know I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. This preseason, Klopp has to have a look back where he thinks things went wrong, because we can't afford to start next season like this. But like I said, it was a big mishmash, and I don't know. I think the problem is that I don't think even Klopp knew how to resolve this. That was the first time it looked like Klopp was stumped as well. Or is that just me?
No, I agree. But I just want to touch on something you said just briefly there. Craig, you can come in on this in a moment as well. The centre-back thing. Now, this wasn't mentioned in pre-season. Nobody was demanding centre-backs. Nobody was worried that Virgil and Konate and Matip, all 3 of them wouldn't have a good season. I know Konate's probably been the best of the 3. But nobody had those conversations. Nobody thought Matip would fall off a cliff. And again, that was another factor for us. We hadn't just got an aging midfield that needed more bodies. Craig, we also had a defence where we'd had a few injuries, and for whatever reason, they were dysfunctional, and the midfield ahead of them wasn't working. And then all of a sudden, there's gaps in the defense, and it was just an absolute mess from start to finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the one thing, if we want to play the blame game type, in where to go, because every position was at fault at that stage as well. I was not in the category of saying Mane shouldn't have left. Obviously, he's an absolute club legend, but if it's time to go, that wasn't our issues. But there is, looking back on it now, over the whole season, you can kind of say, like, well, maybe the pressing from the front, you had a bit of a knock-on effect throughout, and it took a while for the midfield to adjust and the defence to adjust, as the gaps were just big all over the pitch. You know, you didn't have that gap between midfield and defense. You had the gap between of the forwards and the midfield. And it was at the we'll get to the game anyway. Well, Brighton, I think it was the first Brighton game when it just looked like they had the whole pitch.
That game was awful.
Yeah, that was when I was like, okay, no, this system's just totally being done here now. Like
Yeah.
And so I feel like maybe at the start there was a bit of, you know, kind of protecting Nunes in terms of let's not hang out his work rate, because he looked like he is a hard worker, but is he doing the right effort? You know, there's a busy fool and things like that. So I think maybe there was some issues up front that we weren't talking about, just to kind of keep the pressure away from him a bit, which might have had knock on. But again, I think the whole thing in general is just mentality, and maybe even not to go too mental health into it, but a bit of PTSD from the season before.
I agree.
We talked about this quad run, and in the end, we won the two worst cups of the quad, and it's like, yay! But you know,
No, I agree completely. I think, you know, we can't underestimate how much physically and mentally that would have taken to overcome that in such a short space of time. And then
plus they played every game. They played every game they could last season.
I'm not looking for excuses for them at all. They don't need excuses. We know how good they are. They should do better. But they also had the World Cup, which did not help us whatsoever, because it seemed like I'm going a bit forward, we started to kind of get a couple of wins together. Then the World Cup comes, and then straight away after the World Cup, we got Man City. Great. What a way to come back to domestic football. So there was just so many obstacles in our way. And again, I'm not looking for excuses for these players. They're more than good enough to deal with these factors, to at least put up a semi-decent season, whether that's just you get top four, maybe you grab the League Cup or something. We were good enough to do that. That could have easily happened. So I'm not looking for excuses for them. But at the same time, there is a lot in that season where I think, you know what, I'm not actually surprised that we didn't do anything, because there was a lack of investment. There was all these problems going on. There were new players coming in. We spent all this money on a new forward that, looking at it now, I'm not worried about Darwin Núñez. I think that he'll still be brilliant for us, but it certainly seems to me that it shifts more towards Cody Gakpo now. And I'm not mad at that, because Gakpo is phenomenal as well, and we'll get on to him. But let's keep it moving. September came, and we thought that, you know, we'll make it on after back-to-back wins, but we were hit straight back to reality after a 0-0 draw away to Everton at Goodison Park, a 4-1 hammering by Napoli in the Champions League. I think it was after that Napoli game, Shigz, where I just thought, yeah, we're not doing anything this season. Before then, I still thought, you know what? It's still early enough to come out and change it if we can. Listen, at that point, it was early enough where if we did change something at that moment and go on a win, you know, like a 5-game win streak, unlikely, I know, but still possible for this team, we could still salvage something. But after that Napoli game, I think I remember doing a stream about it.
Yeah, well, I was on that stream. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I said the season is done. I said it from then. And people were like, stop being so reactionary. I was like, I've never, even though we've had hard games against Napoli, that is the worst performance I've seen under Klopp. They were tearing us apart. And it wasn't even like they were doing anything special. Like, the gap. Oh my God! Okay, let me calm down, because I'm remembering like Gomez being bled on a walkabout, like, and even if Van Dijk made a couple of blocks and stuff, we were just, I can't remember stringing. We got one goal. That's when Diaz came on, but like the whole game, I was just like, every time Napoli got the ball, they looked like they were gonna score. I mean, every time. I'm like, there's nothing. We can't stop the bleeding. We can't stop.
I think we were probably still on the high line kind of narrative at that stage. You know, and then eventually it was like, oh no, it's no longer the high line. Something's just completely.
I think Napoli as well caught us all by surprise at that stage, because the management should know, because they're professionals. They do the scouting. They look at teams before we play them. But I certainly had no idea that Napoli were going to go on to be one of the better teams in the world this season. I thought Napoli, it will be like a sort of 0-0 kind of vibe, and if we're lucky, we might get a smash or grab. Either way, so either they'll get the goal.
The reason I say that is because whenever we played Napoli in Napoli, they've always beat us.
It's always been a horrible game, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, like they're
We've never been battered, like, you know what I mean?
no, but they've always I think the last 3 times we played them in Napoli, they beat us.
Yeah.
So I was already
Bit of a
thinking,
bogey team, yeah.
sugar, like we're playing like this. How are we? And it wasn't even like there was only one guy that I was really scared of. I can't pronounce his name.
Simon?
No. That's
Whatever
the
his
guy.
name is.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Just chucking a Billy at the end.
Mike might be able to tell us. Mike, what's the left winger from Napoli called?
Oh wow, really? That's the first question I get. Is to pronounce it. No. All right. Krivashka Besh. No, I can't say.
They call him Caradonna, don't they? They call
He
him
was the other
Caradonna.
guy that I was worried about. But then when them two started linking up, I was like, oh, it's going to be a long day. I was so happy when that final whistle come. Just get out of there, lads.
I think Arthur was happy when that whistle came as well, mate. He was blowing out his backside.
Yeah.
But, like me down the Power League on a Monday night, I think that's what I compared it to at the time. Exactly, yeah. Mike, you join us, mate. Welcome back to the pod. Yeah, we're just talking about how shambles the start of the season was, to be fair. We're currently at Napoli 4-1. We've briefly spoken about, you know, the normal topics we've spoken about for the last 9 months, the midfield, the defense. Just what's your, you know, take on the whole Napoli loss and, you know, the whole first 3-4 months, mate?
Well, first 3 or 4 months, I'm sure I'm going to repeat a lot of things, you know, you guys have already said. Went into the season very hopeful. You know, I was excited by Nunes. You know, maybe it was going to be interesting to see how he was going to link up with the other two, but I was excited. You know, it's new forward. It's always an exciting thing. He didn't click straight away. I think him getting sent off wasn't helpful for his own development. So it was like, okay, but, you know, he still had that passion, that speed, so everyone was kind of excited by him. But I think we've seen indications that we kind of turned a blind eye too early on against Fulham in terms of switching off, defensive frailties, lack of legs in midfield. But we all sort of brushed that off. We were like, oh, it's Fulham away. It is what it is. We'll get going. We just never seem to get going. And I think first couple of games, we all tried to turn a blind eye to some really obvious issues. Something I said last week about Trent at the back post was 1, Van Dijk not being at its 2, Fabinho not being awake until March. You know, and Henderson, I'm a guy that will not slander Henderson. I'm not sure why I won't, but I just refuse to. But he did not turn up, and he hasn't turned up.
I'll do it for you.
No, it's cool. Listen, I think Twitter does it enough for me. But listen, I'll always have space for Henderson in my heart, but I think he shouldn't.
Mike. We all love Henderson, mate. We all love him.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Well, I'm sure we all love him as a captain and a person on this panel. But we've got to be honest, mate. He can't start for us next season.
No, he can't. He shouldn't have started us for us this season. I'm sure you guys have already said, or you probably all thought about already, one of the biggest jokes, I think, is when there's a Klopp interview where he goes, we don't need midfielders. Look at the midfielders we have. We've got Ox, Naby. That haunts me, bro. That haunts me daily. And at the time, you know, everyone on Twitter was going, I don't think that's right. We probably do need another one. And then you had everyone else going, trust the gaffer. I'll be honest with you. I was one of the people going, well, if Naby can stay fit, if, you know, Henderson, if Thiago can stay fit, you know, I was being honest. I was one of the delusional people, but at least I'll own up to it. It is what it is. Like, you know, Naby, a fit Naby, you know, an on-form.
The thing is, Naby proved he could stay fit last season, so we were basing it on that.
Like, yeah, exactly. We were basing everything on the season before, and I think some players ran too much last season. I don't think they've ever got their legs back. We played too many games. You know what I mean? The amount of games we played last season, some players never got their legs back, and it is what it is. We didn't add to midfield. We were holding out for a Bellingham deal that, by the sounds of it, was never really going to happen. It is what it is. But yeah, and then get to the Napoli game. We all fast forward all the way to there, so don't talk too much about things I'm sure you guys have already said. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, mate. It got to half time, and I was like, I might need another pint, and that was pretty much how it's been for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And guys, stick with us. Keep watching. We're just going to briefly get through the season, and then we're going to talk about some transfer news. But just a quick one. Liverpool have a substantial interest in Manu Kone. They have recently spoke with his agent and it is now up to the club if they decide if they want to make a bid. That is from Fabrizio Romano. So we'll get on to Manu Kone a bit later. But yeah, we'll move on to the end of the month, and I'll just briefly touch over this because it was a terrible game that I was at, but thankfully John Matip got a late winner. It was Ajax at home in the Champions League.
That was the game I was going to go to with you as well.
Oh, it was watching paint dry. Like Kudus, that goal that he scored was unbelievable, and it was that moment where I think I was like, yeah, this team's like walking football now. Like this team is like watching walking football. I know Kudus is quick, and kudos to him, but sorry, that was terrible. Yeah, it was at that moment where I was like, yeah, this team's muddled, man. This team needs some serious help. I didn't know what the help was, and I'm not one of these that screams at Klopp, make changes, because I'm not a tactician. I have no idea what needs to change. I'm just a Liverpool fan. I go watch games. I cheer the team on. So I didn't know what he needed to change, but I felt like something had to change. We had to make signings in the window. We did make a signing in the window, and it was an unbelievable signing. We'll get onto him in just a bit later. Then we destroyed Rangers away 7-1. Again, brilliant win. And it seemed to me, Shigz, it seemed to me that this season we scored 4, 5, 6, or 7, or even more goals in a game, like quite often, to be honest, compared to most teams. Yet we were still so bad. It was like, if it sounds crazy, but if only we could learn how to keep the ball out of our net, we would have been absolutely fine.
Yeah, there were a number. You know what it was? A number of players in any good team that's going to be challenging for anything. You need at least 6, 7, and maybe 8 players all at a level to be able to kind of, if you're going to be challenging for the league, if you're going to be challenging for the Premiership, you need at least 8 players each week, 7 or 8 players each week, turning up and doing the business. Now, apart from Alisson, maybe Konate, the first half of the season, there's no one that you could hang your hat on or you could say, right, we're going to get an 7 or 8 out of 10 performance out. Trent, you couldn't, because at that time, I don't know what was going through his head, but he just wasn't there. Van Dijk wasn't functioning, and it was just like we said earlier, none of the team, it seemed like a lot of the team was still in pre-season for whatever reason, still running through treacle. And it was just like the amount of times you would see players just stop running or let their man go, or Trent at the back post at the guy getting behind him. I lost count how many times. The Fulham game was the first one, but you can't do nothing about Mitrovic. Mitrovic is a beast in the air. But other time, people kept getting him behind, and it's just like we didn't even have the squad to maybe say, okay, you know what, certain players aren't playing well. We'll bench them and play other players. Maybe Basetic for Fabinho, but right back, centre backs, forwards, it just wasn't clicking. And no matter how many variations of what you did to the team, it didn't seem to make a difference. Or was that just me?
No, it's true. It's true. And just in that month as well, we dropped 2 more points to Brighton, 3-0. And then we lost to Arsenal. And Craig, it was after that loss to Arsenal, and I think we were quite harshly done in that game, to be fair. I'm not going to go too much into that now. But but for me, seeing us lose to Arsenal and seeing them start the season so well, I was just thinking, like Arsenal have now, they're not, but let me make this clear before we carry on. They've not become anything remotely close to what we had done. Like, let's get that out of the way first of all. There's been so many stupid idiots comparing us to this Arsenal team, which is just so disrespectful. But to see Arsenal start the season, mate, in that way, it was just quite, tough to watch, because we'd seen how bad Arsenal have been over the years, and all of a sudden they make a few good signings, and essentially they going for the title like we was, and now we swap places with them.
Well, that's the thing. Momentum it's a hell of a drug, as they say. We've been surviving on it for years ourselves, and that's kind of why, like, most of us would think, I think it was the Arsenal game. It was actually around then. I was like, okay, Champions League. That's our aim now, and that's kind of the best we can do. But even then, I always thought that we just needed one little run, And then that would kick in the mindset into the other clubs then that, we're on our way. They'd start losing matches. Usually the Champions League run is just like who's not the shittest team, which is a weird thing to say for the top 4 teams in the country. But like you've seen it the last few years, we haven't been involved, so we don't really pay attention to it that much. But like United throwing away, Leicester constantly throwing it away year after year. This is what has happened for the Champions League runs. Where this year is probably the first time where other teams have actually gone on, kept these winning runs, a few draws in the middle, but they never capitulated. Newcastle didn't do it. United didn't. United were on the edge of it towards the end. But in fairness to them, this has probably been one of the better Champions League runs in the last few years, and we just left it way, way too late. And you could see once Diaz is gone, I was like, oh no, here, he was our bright spark. The only thing that kind of in a game where I thought, okay, he can cut in, he can create a chance out of nothing, and that's what we needed. We needed guys to create a chance out of nothing because we as a team we weren't creating them. And I think, it was tough. It's tough to see Arsenal come along, and City obviously fell down as well. But like City are being our best friends, the two of us holding hands, going, "You're gonna be crap this year." Yeah, we'll be crap together then. Yeah. Okay. And Arsenal nearly kind of woke City up in a way. They had to keep winning to wake them up. But yeah, no, it's been tough to watch them. But we'll come back. I actually would. Just for the laugh, I'd put on some money that they won't make the Champions League next year. Arsenal.
Ooh, Arsenal.
Wow, that's a shout. We'll get on to that.
No, I'm not doing this. Craig, no.
Love it.
You know what he's done there? He's gone, all right, Ben, listen, we need something to snip to get people engaged, right? So I'm not buying that. Sorry.
Listen, we'll get on to that in a bit, but that's a big shout.
That's a mad shout,
Yeah.
Chelsea coming back, Newcastle, United. No, not United.
No.
Newcastle and Chelsea.
Well,
you're not a Liverpool club, Craig,
That's why not United.
We finished the month strong. I mean, Shigz, we were just speaking about you being in Portugal. I was in Portugal for the last 2 games of October. In a bar, watched us beat Man City. That goal was nuts. The touch from Salah from the Alisson assist was insane. And then we also beat West Ham with a Nunes goal. But Mike, I'm going to come to you, mate, because we've not really spoken about this. We've briefly touched on false hopes, where it felt like we got a win or 2 wins together, and it's like, right, we're going to turn a corner. Not necessarily we're going to go for the league. We're not necessarily going to go and do something crazy, but we're at least going to improve. And I think in October, for me, just beating Man City at Anfield in the way we did, because it was a completely different sort of performance we'd seen at home. We were compact at the back. Joe Gomez had his one and only good game this season. We just didn't look like conceding. So for me, seeing us be able to play like that against Man City, it's like, oh, actually, we can do it. So yeah, how was you feeling like coming out of that October bit of spell at the end of the month, thinking, you know what, maybe we are actually starting to turn a corner now?
I'll tell you what, Joe Gomez must be such a trigger word. You said it, and Shigz turned his mic and his camera off.
Shigz don't rate Joe Gomez.
I think Shigz was in the chat yesterday, wasn't he? I think when I heard him talk about Gomez. But okay, in terms of false hope, there was a lot of stop-starts this season. Not necessarily with the last run of games, although there were moments where it even still felt like false hope. I mean, the Southampton game really, I think, was an important game for us to have at the very end of the season, because I think it highlighted the things that maybe have been masked over the last 10 games. But going all the way back to, City and West Ham, even some players given some stop-starts and false hopes. I think Joe Gomez, you think, I think Nunes in a way, with false, so you're talking false hope. Talking Fabinho at this point as well. There was a lot of players that were putting in poor performance in against City, poor performance in against West Ham, maybe Rangers as well. And a lot of the fans, we were like, okay, this is it. Now we're going to go on the run. Now it's going to happen. It just, something was up the whole season. I really feel like there will be more understood maybe in the coming year or so as to some internal things that happened. Maybe there were some fallouts. I don't want to speculate, but Fabinho, 100%, I think there was a lot of internal conflict with him. The way he just seemed to drop off and for the majority of the season and then only pick back up. Yeah, don't get me wrong, formation change helped. I don't doubt that. But we've seen a change in Fabinho's form just before the formation changed. And yeah, that's a whole different thing. But in terms of the false hope, though, it's just like it was so stop-start. I didn't get my hope up when we beat City. I wasn't. When I'm positive, I'm positive, but when I'm negative, I'm negative. When we beat City, you know what Anfield can do. We've seen it with the Arsenal game as well, although that was actually a turning point where the fans are the other man, with the 12th man, where Milner said it the other day in his interview, we're the fans club, the fact that the fans run this club in that respect. And when the players aren't performing, the fans get behind and pull something out. And that's what happened in the City game, and I wouldn't even, it was a false hope for a couple of people, but also they're the same people that thought we were signing Caicedo in January. So.
Yeah, no, it's true.
That's ruthless, isn't it?
Yeah, no. Before we kick on, big up soccer.
80 million, yeah. All right, mate.
Yeah. We're gonna buy Cody Gakpo, and then we're just gonna sign Caicedo in January. Yeah. You know how we're 12th in the league? Yeah, no, we're gonna sign him. Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll get on to transfers in a bit, but before we carry on, big up soccer god Evan from Born and Red. Make sure you go check those guys out. I believe they're doing a show tonight talking about transfers, so make sure you go check out Born and Red, put notification, and give Evan a follow as well on Twitter. But yeah, guys, I'm not gonna sit here talking about dropping points in another. I'm just trying to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're in October and we drop points in 14 more games. So I'm just going to read out the scores and then we're just going to evaluate the whole section.
Leeds is the worst one out of all of them.
Let me say them all, then we'll react, okay? So Forest 1-0 at the City ground. We lost 2-1 to Leeds at home. 3-0 to Brighton, 0-0 to Chelsea, 3-0 to Wolves, 5-2 to Real Madrid, 0-0 to Palace, 3-2 to City in the Carabao Cup, 1-0 to Bournemouth, 4-1 to City, 0-0 to Chelsea, 2-2 to Arsenal, 1-1 to Villa, and 4-4 to Southampton.
Right,
that Leeds one hurt the most.
You think the Leeds one hurt the most?
You know when you're watching it, yeah, and you just sit there stunned, like.
Can I just pause you there and put an image in your head? Imagine being sat next to the Leeds fans when that happened. That's what I was. The worst fans in the Premier League, and I would.
You're saying the Leeds are the worst fans in the Prem? Is that what you were saying?
They're up there, yeah.
Oh, I don't know, man. The Leicester fans kind of have it for me, man.
Leicester and Leeds, yeah. But Leeds are horrible.
More than that.
I've never felt so small in my life. Honestly, it was.
I bet. Worst one for me, man, was the City game, though. I know you can say you lose to City. That's City. It's the performance that pissed me off. It wasn't the result.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Was it 4-1 or something like that?
4-1.
It was 4-1. But the worst part of it, we turn up in the big games, man. Like, listen, it doesn't matter how bad our seasons have been. We've always turned up in the big game. It's the first game on the Klopp. I think that was a big game. That we just weren't there. There was not even
that game.
What?
Did we take the lead against Man City? Or
did Salah, yeah. Was it Salah?
Yeah. Go watch the game. Were we playing well up to the 1-0? No.
Yes, and Jota should have scored before Salah scored even.
Yep.
We had another chance as well, yeah.
Yeah, and we were absolutely diabolical.
Just on that run there, weren't we just like, again, the Robin Hood? Like bottom of the league. We're like, oh, here, take the 3 points, get off the bottom. Who's next? Okay, Southampton, Bournemouth, yeah.
Always been
just
guys have to remember as well, Forest for me is not a good one because I have a lot of Forest fans as my mates, and let me tell you now, I was giving them a lot this season, telling them that they're going straight back down, and then they came and beat us, man. Oh my Lord.
To be fair, that's the one thing Arsenal fans can say, though, isn't it? Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, we're just as good as we both lost at Forest, so we're both equal." Well,
Forest drew to City as well, didn't they?
Yeah, no, Forest actually turned it around at home and became quite the fortress.
Yeah.
I think United beat them at home, though, so I'm sure United fans, if they ever catch us saying that, will be like, well, we beat them. It's like, all right.
Beating Forest at home ain't everybody.
United fans are still too busy laughing at the fact they lost 7-0 to us, which still blows my mind that they keep going on.
That is a bizarre one, that, to be fair. Well, they keep bringing up, they go, the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened in the United-Liverpool game in their mind is Sancho twisting and Milner sliding in front. And they're like, oh, this is the moment that made our season. It's like, bro, we put 7 past. I don't understand that. But it's all good because they finished 2 points ahead of us.
Yeah, but let's get back on track. Just a moment. Yeah. Shigz, sorry, we'll go to you, Craig. You were just speaking. What is the collective then? All of those games I just read out. what for you were the main, and I know we've spoken about it millions and millions of times, but if we could just summarize that whole list of poor results that I just read out, including the very lesser sides, all due respect to them, what happened? Why did we drop so many points?
Shigz, you taking that one?
I'll take it.
Complacency.
Complacency. Turning up thinking that we were better than them when the game was already won before we'd even played. You saw it. People jogging when they're meant to be marking a man. Other people pointing out you should have been marking them where we should have no accountability. The main thing with club teams is everybody takes accountability for their own play and and their actions. No one was doing it. How many times did you see when they'd scored, Henderson pointing at somebody or someone else pointing at somebody? And
that Darwin Núñez one where Henderson moves Núñez?
Yeah, bro. Yeah. What are we doing here? And sorry, Mike, I'm gonna have to do this. On a number of occasions, Henderson was on one. It was the guy at fault trying to cajole everybody and not doing his own, not concentrating on his own game. And it was
can I push back? Am I able to push back?
Let me finish.
I'll have a debate with you. I got you.
Let me finish and you can go. So, I don't know what it is. A number of times it just looked like even when he wouldn't start, he would come on and he would take the armband. There was never. I can only think of maybe one game where he came on and made a difference. A lot of the time when he played, and this is not Henderson, I'm shooting down Henderson because there was plenty of other players, Fabinho as well, form dropped off a cliff as well. But it just seemed like he didn't have the same sway that he usually has when he has the armband. Now, I don't know if that's just me, but again, it just seemed like, because there was one time, I can't remember what game it was, he was telling Trent to do something, Trent told him to fuck off, and I'm like, raw, I've never seen that happen. So it's just those games were symptomatic of the season whereby, one, the effort weren't there. Two, we just seemed complacent. And three, we already gone into the game like we'd already won the game. And the performance showed it.
Right. So am I good to push back?
Yeah.
So listen. So I want to say, first off, I agree with the majority of things you said. Let's make that clear. So we're not opposing each other here at all, right?
Yeah.
I agree that when he came on the pitch, he didn't seem to have the same sway. I agree that there were players fighting each other. And I also agree that the way we entered the pitch, sometimes we were acting like we were naturally going to win the game, right?
Yeah.
Which is the worst mentality you can ever have. As a competitive team, it's the worst mentality you can have. What I will push back on is, firstly, the Trent Henderson thing, where everyone's like, oh, Trent's gone back at Henderson, he's lost the dressing room, da-da-da. There have been plenty of examples over the last couple of years, well, just in football in general, the best teams, right? I've seen Puyol fight Messi, right? I've seen Van Dijk, Matip go at each other. I've seen Van Dijk and Alisson go at each other.
Van Dijk's Milner as well.
Yeah, I've seen Henderson and Van Dijk do it. I've seen Henderson and Milner do it. All that is frustration on the football pitch between two football players. There's still respect there. Listen how Trent talks about Henderson. I'll never buy into that kind of thing. Henderson has the respect of the dressing room. I don't doubt that. The one thing Henderson doesn't have is respect of, unfortunately, a lot of Liverpool fans. Now, the reason I think that is, and this is where, I wind a lot of people up when I say this, but I don't think this is a crazy take. Most football fans are very fickle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they play 5 bad games or they have a bad season. Like most of our players have. Henderson's a captain, so I understand where that comes from. He's also in an integral part, an integral area where we need a lot of improvement, right? So naturally, he comes under a lot more focus and a lot more criticism. And he deserves a lot of the criticism, make that clear. His performances haven't been good. He's actually been one of the worst midfielders. I don't doubt that. However, take away the names from it. So just take away names, right? You've got 32, I think 32, right? You've got a 32-year-old midfielder who played 50 games last season, who you're now asking after a full preseason, who also played in the World Cup, to now play a further 40 games, right? That's not fair. That's not going to work well in his legs. He's never going to perform. He's never going to be able to perform well. And then the question comes, well, is that on Henderson or is that on Klopp? I think that personally falls on quite a lot on Klopp, and also falls into our recruitment issue. Now, our recruitment issue has been well documented. If you have a midfield, last season, 2 of the midfielders, both now in their 30s, Fabinho, Henderson, play over 60 games, near a quadruple, the mental toll that comes with that as well. We lose 2 trophies, right, in the final. We lose the Prem last game of the season as well. To then get them to then carry on into next season and still do the groundwork and play the way we play, right? They're never going to perform the same way. They're just not going to. I think it's very easy for us to sit here and go, Henderson's shit, Henderson's this, Fabinho's this. Don't get me wrong. Yes, they perform badly, but there's clear reasoning behind it. And Henderson, I don't care what anyone says, he has been integral to the reason players perform the way they do, the professionalism our team shows, and the reason we've lifted the trophies we have. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people don't understand sports and they just, watch it and they play a bit of FIFA and you go, bloody hell, that Kone guy that I've never seen play, but he's 80, he goes 78 to 84 on FIFA and his dribbling's 85. He's a fucking baller. No, bro, you stop. Don't stop doing this. That's why I hate Twitter in general, bro. If you've never seen the player play, admit that. I've never seen Kone play. I have no idea.
I've never seen him play either. But
yeah, so
but the thing with that is the thing with Henderson, and you're right what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you either. But the thing with Henderson is that you're the captain. I know it's not fair, but you've got that armband for a reason. So when you have the armband, you are the one that has to set the temp. You are the one that has to set the standard. And I know obviously he's a human being and he's had a lot and stuff like that. And you know what I would say it's more. I would say 60% Klopp, 40%, or I would say 65% Klopp, 35% Henderson. Because
I agree with you.
Klopp at the beginning of the season is like we have enough midfielders where everybody knew, everybody was like, nah, mate, this midfield is not gonna cut it. Because even last season there were certain games that our midfield struggled, and because we had Mane being able to come in when he normally does and getting an important goal, it kind of papered over the cracks.
Facts.
So when I'm saying that Henderson he did play, I'm not backing down from that. He did play poor this season. And
I agree.
Everyone agrees with that. Yeah.
You also have to remember his role in the system as well. Like Henderson isn't there to to open the pitch up or do that. The main function of overlapping Salah on the right, getting a first-time cross in, and that's why we've seen it when Elliott fills into his position. He's not naturally right-footed, so that whole play that they do of Salah taking in two guys, Henderson going, I think Elliott can't do it. So until we get a right-footed person to come in and take Henderson's spot, he's going to play the right.
Can I just say something real quick before we carry on? Robert's left a comment. This Henderson love is crazy when Fabinho gets hatred. I don't agree with this. I think they've both been criticised equally.
Ben, you know that I've gone in on Fabinho numerous times.
Everyone has.
I think the reason there's this staunch defence of Hendo, though, right? And don't get me wrong, maybe Fabinho can get this as well, is I don't know about you guys. I don't know about the people that are watching this, right? I hate when I get on Twitter and all I see is people just like literally talking about Henderson as if he's
every single
day. Say everything. Apparently, everything.
He's target.
Yeah, but it's in a way, and you can go, yeah, he's the captain. He's the captain. It's just so easy for people to just blame Henderson for everything. Like there's no time for debate. Like what me and Shigz have had here is how a conversation should go, right? It's how two football fans should talk, right? Both have two slightly different points of view. We both meet in the middle on certain things, right? That's what a debate is. If I went on Twitter, and this is why I don't post football things on Twitter, right? I keep to myself and I wait till I get here. But if I go on Twitter,
mate.
Thank you very much.
Check out Mike Quill.
Yeah, bro. If anyone wants to listen to good music, go put Mike on Spotify. I appreciate it. All right, but oh no, Shigz, don't do it while we're on there. Don't do it while we're on here.
Shig's about to put some of your songs on his next sets.
Man. Yeah, on my next set. Yeah.
Hey, bro, I'll send you some unreleased shit.
All right, let's do this after the stream.
Away from that. All right, listen. I'll defend Fabinho right now. You're saying no? We'll defend Fabinho right now too. Fabinho, same argument goes with Henderson, right? It's the same argument for both of them, right? You're playing 60 games one season, expected to play 40 the next. The system playing Elliott where Henderson was, exposed Fabinho, right? That's not his fault. He had no coverage, right? So he's constantly being exposed. Fabinho doesn't have the legs to press anymore. But then when we move Trent into that midfield, we've seen the best of Fabinho. Trent was able to cover more ground, right? Fabinho reads the game brilliantly. You don't lose that with age, but we do lose his legs. And we've lost two of our three midfielders, if not all three, especially when we play Thiago. No offense, because I love Thiago. We had no legs. We have no legs in midfield. We had three players that can read, two players that can read the game very well, and a player that is very vocal that can lead other players, right? But we had no one who could actually run anywhere. But that's our biggest issue. So that is defense for Fabinho, right? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. When Robert says no one defends Fabinho, when Fabinho has deserved praise, we've all given him. Like as soon as Trent goes into midfield with him, I'm not saying that Fabinho all of a sudden became prime Fabinho again. I don't think we'll ever see that again. And I think most people would agree. But what we did see is he significantly improved when a player, and this sounds crazy, that can actually play football in midfield next to him. You know, we actually saw Fabinho improve a lot. And you're right. I think it just depends where you look, Robert. If you look on Twitter, then you'll see different things. When you listen to podcasts here where it's just honest people being honest about every single individual, regardless of if you love Mohamed Salah or if you love Sadio Mane, or we don't care. We're honest, and that's where you need to listen more to, mate. Not people that would just wake up, join a space, and start hating on Henderson every day.
Oh, that's a statement. I've seen bro. Look at it now. Go on, you talk. You got it.
Mohammed says Fabinho's drop off was way worse than Hendo, so it looked worse. Shigz.
Listen, how many times I lost? How many times did I come on here, Ben, and saying, "Listen, Fabinho has been trash." Like, that's
ruthless, isn't it?
Was I wrong?
You were no. You weren't wrong. You weren't wrong. You were right. Like you are right in that he didn't perform well.
It was awful. Like it just like. Bro, how you not making a 5? I get the running thing. I get that energy. Okay, 5-yard pass, bro. 5 yards. He's there. You can see him. It's a line, and you're messing up. What are we doing? You're getting what 80, 90 grand a week. I could do that, bro. Put me in a red shirt.
Fabinho.
Bro, listen.
More than 80, 90 grand a week.
I'm gonna tell you right now, bro. You cannot make a 5-yard pass. I'm actually gonna call you on.
No, I can. Trust me.
Okay, let's go.
But the main thing was that before, I would say, like you said, March time, Fabinho always looked like he was running through treacle. He always looked like it was.
He's never been blessed with
the whole team did as well. Though. That's the thing.
And it's like normally where our injury room is, where we overpower teams, that's where we begin to put our foot on other teams' necks, and then progress from there. We weren't able to do it, and as a result of that, the result suffered because the defense was having to do more work.
I think the last one on this because I want to move on. Yeah,
I was going to ask you one question before you moved on, if that's okay. Would you start Fabinho? So hypothetically, next season, first game is Luton away. Call it what you want. If I've called that, by the way, I want credit. I reckon we will get Luton away. But let's say we have 2 midfielders. We don't sign 3. Let's say we sign 2. All 2 are available in the sense of McAllister and let's say Thuram, right? Mm-hmm. Would you start Fabinho in the 6? Would you still start him? I personally would.
I would start.
I think like what we should always do, and this is the plan that we would want to do if everything worked out, is that we would gently introduce these players. Obviously, McAllister should be ready to go off the bat type of thing, but I don't want to see a whole brand new 3 midfield on the first day of the season. You need an old head in there just to kind of get the tactics across, get the new system in. Hopefully, everyone has it get sorted out in preseason. But would Fabinho be the one to start for me? I would think so. Yeah, it's obviously Thiago could come back, could fill that role or be the starter as well. But I would have no issue with seeing Fabinho start the season as well. And I think that needs a bit more time as well.
I agree.
Yeah. And look, we've seen it even Fabinho himself when we signed him. There was a big settling period. He didn't start week in, week out. There was a big period where Fabinho was sort of in and out of the team, and that's how Klopp likes to do things. Unless we go and get an incredible player that would just come in, like Craig alluded to McAllister. I agree. I think he can just come into this team. But somebody like Manu Kone, who we will touch on at the end, if he comes in, I don't see him just being put straight into it. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Let's move on then, guys. That was a great conversation, to be fair. But I'm just going to list all the wins from that point onwards, and then we're going to just talk on that last sort of 10, 12 game end to the season. Tottenham, we beat them 2-1. Beat Southampton 3-1. Leicester 2-1. We beat Wolves in the Cup 1-0. Liverpool 2, Everton 0. Newcastle, we beat them 2-0. We beat Wolves 2-0. Man United 7-0. Leeds 6-1. Forest 3-2. West Ham 2-1. Liverpool 4, Tottenham 3. Amazing game. Liverpool 1, Fulham 0. 1-0 against Brentford and 3-0 against Leicester. So, Shigz, I'm going to come back to you, mate. We have this thing where when we are asked to go on a run, we usually can. If it's right at the end of the season for whatever reason, we usually do sort of give it the best shot we can.
7, 8, 9, 10 games.
The damage was already done this time, though, wasn't it? And it was just a bit too far for us to.
That was too far. It was looking like we could see.
We just needed other results to help us as well.
No, but these 2 games are symptomatic of Liverpool season. We beat United 7-0.
And then lose to Bournemouth.
And then we got to lose to Bournemouth. And in the back of my head, I was like, there's no way these guys are going to go to Bournemouth and lose. And then after the first 20 minutes of the game, I was just like, oh, we're going to.
You knew it. We all, like, that was the first thing I said to anyone. I was like, we all knew this was going to happen, didn't we? We didn't want to say it, but we all knew.
Yeah, indeed. That would be. And then obviously when Salah missed a penny, he was just like, this game, I'll switch it off. I said, it's done. It's done. But
was that the first of his two? Was that the first of his two off-target penalties?
Yeah, that was the first one. That was the first one because the Arsenal one was the second. So yeah, but it was just like those games we went on a run that it was just like, okay, we were slightly getting into, because I'll put it like this: if we beat Bournemouth and we beat someone else we drew with as well, I can't remember who it was. If we beat Bournemouth, we get top 4. I have no shadow of a doubt. Because
we drew to Chelsea, didn't we?
Yeah.
0-0. Yeah. I think
but that game
Chelsea
we was lucky to get a point out there. Listen, that would have been criminal if we'd won that game, because we were absolutely arse in that game. But anyway, that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, we still have something whereby we can put a run together. Now we just need the mentality needs to reset for the beginning of next season, so that when we hit the ground running, we haven't got no charity shield. We go and do what we did, and we come out and whatever team, hopefully Luton away, we go there and we blast them.
No, I'm not being funny. I'm not disrespecting Luton away, mate. I think that's going to be a horrible game.
But let's be honest, we should be tucking them in.
No, we should. We should be beating.
Nah, Luton away is like the equivalent, right, of going to the new camp against Prime Barcelona first day of the season, right? Guys, Luton away, first game of the season. I don't care if City go there, if Arsenal go there, whoever goes there is not.
That's the biggest game of their recent times. And by the way, guys, just a quick one, just a side note: we have secured a guest from every single Premier League club to come on the channel and to give previews. So for the first time in the Anfield Talk history, we're going to be communicating with a Luton Town fan. So it's crazy.
I can't wait for that.
Big up to, I can't remember what their at is, but we will have them on here very shortly. So yeah, stick around for those. We're going to be doing preview shows for every single game, talking to other fans about their club and our club and how we think the games are going to go. Craig, let's go back to you, mate. After seeing Liverpool get, these wins, and if we just take away the last game, because that was just a circus, I think I said to my brother when I was in the stands, like, these lads just want to go on holiday now. You could see it in the body language. They weren't bothered. So if we kind of just take away that last game, do you have confidence from that run that going into the next season with new faces, new additions, maybe a refresh squad, that we will be able to sort of go on that run at the start of next season?
Yeah, big time. Like I'd put my hand up and say that I was one of the people that said, I don't think we don't sign any new midfielders this year, we'll still get Champions League after the January transfer window, as well as this squad has it in them to go on and do it. And they, to be honest, I still think they should have been challenging City as well. There's good enough players there as well. The biggest thing I think is the confidence for the players. And they've now got a springboard they can use for next season, which is the biggest thing, because we were playing for nothing, but we still turned it round, because that was a big issue for us the whole way through, was the mentality, the complacency, what are we playing for, and that type of thing. But eventually we clicked, and we're like, all right, here, we just need to start winning games. We need to start playing ball. We're not the champions. We're not going to be the winners of the league this year. So that's definitely the biggest thing. The Trent system, I'm a bit like, yeah, okay, exciting, but at the same time, we still need a backup. We still need another variation of it. I'm actually, this could be a crazy shout, but I'm thinking about, is Bajcetic going to be the backup for Trent in that system? Because I don't think Gomez is good enough on the ball to play the right back, or I don't know anything about Ramsey, to be honest, just yet. I know he flies down the wing, which might not suit the inverted role yet, but I think Bajcetic and Fabinho in there could be an actual winner in terms of that. What game? Southampton, when Trent was just off it. We had the great run. Trent was just killing it, and then as soon as Trent wasn't on it, we just dropped massively. So what's our backup in that situation? And I think that's a big issue we need to solve, because we're so reliant on Trent. We have other players that we can work around. But if Trent's not on his game, I think we suffer massively. So I've put it out there. I think it should be Batchich as his backup in the inverted right back role, because he's still playing the kind of natural position that he is anyway, and he's good on the ball too, unlike the other fellas, and we know he's a monster in defence.
Yeah, Mike, I'm going to come to you and just pretty much ask you the same question, mate, to be honest, and then we'll move on to a few other bits and pieces. Just closing the door on that season, and like I say, I know the performances still weren't there in some of those games that we won, but just to get that winning feeling back again, is this something that, okay, now we are actually winning games, we can win games without necessarily being incredible, which we've not really done for the majority of the season. We did kind of do it in the last 10 games. Is that something that we're taking into next season with a bit more hope?
Yeah. Listen, I think the last 10 games is shown, aside of Klopp that I didn't know, I hadn't seen for a while, which was flexibility and changing the formation, willing to take a risk. Also willing to take a risk with different players. I think that's something that Klopp's maybe been a bit rigid on, but I'm not sure what game it was. It might have been the City game before Chelsea, right? And there was just something snapped. And it was just like, and he said he was resting players against Chelsea. I don't think he was resting players against Chelsea. I think that was a signal to a lot of players. Van Dijk was left out that game, things like that. And I think that was kind of a moment. We've had plenty of wake-up calls this season, but I think that was we've had probably an emergency team meeting, and I've just told what majority of the usual starting 11, stay at home. Like, if you're not going to play, stay at home. And the Arsenal game followed that Chelsea game, and that's when it all began. Trent in the inverted role is going to be interesting. Is it going to be something we can do long-term? I hope so. Because defensively, we need to figure out a new formation. We really do. Because as Craig has said, as Shigz has said, as I've said, sure you've said as well, but I'm definitely harped on about it enough myself. The back post, Trent versus an inside forward or an oncoming midfielder, he doesn't win the battle. And that's down to his positional awareness, his body shape. These are things that if he hasn't learned now, I don't think he will learn. And that's no slight on him, because I still think he's a better defender than people give him credit for. But I just think at the back post, that's his weakness, right? In the air, at the back, he switches off. He doesn't go to the right man. See it too often, right? So defensive formation, I'm hoping we're able to alter and figure something out. I am confident going into this next season. I think this is a season that, because we've got through and we finished in Europa, which I think was crucial, it's going to bring the team together more for the most part. Like, I think of the season that, if you think of the season that followed when we finished third, right? When we're playing, it sounds crazy, like third, as if that's a bad thing, but like what had led up to that was obviously excruciatingly painful. We had Henderson playing centre back with Kabak at one point. You know what I mean? See, Shigz, look what Henderson did for us. He's playing centre back for us.
No, Shigz, go on. I'm muted Shigz for him, so.
Yeah, Shigz is just about to fight me over the camera. I can see it. But that's it. It's one of those. Yeah. I think next season there's a lot to be hopeful for. It looks like we are going to have a big window. I'm expecting 3 centre mids. I'm expecting a centre back. I think if we get those 4 signings in, regardless of a right back, regardless of another full back, I'll be very confident for next season. I say confident. All I mean by confident is 2 good cup runs, and I don't think we'll challenge for the title. I'm not going to lie. I don't think we'll challenge for the
challenge
title.
at all.
Depends how the first 2 games go.
It's easy to say that. I just don't think yet. I think we'll be in the hunt. Maybe we'll be around.
What do you count as a title charge? How many points behind the leaders? 5.
If we finish a title charge for me is when we not what Arsenal did. Don't get me wrong. Arsenal.
Well, it was for most of the season, but it was like the last 5 to 10 games. They just
come the end of the season. I don't think we'll be within 10 points of whoever wins the title. I'll say that.
Okay, no, that's fair. I mean,
and that might be negative. I might change my mind.
I agree.
But if we finish next season,
I disagree for positivity.
I respect it, Craig. I respect it.
Craig's my guy.
I might be wrong, but I think if we win the Europa League, right? If we win the Europa League or we win both the FA Cup and League Cup, I'll take it either way, right? I'd prefer the Europa League personally. I personally prefer the Europa League, but if we win the Europa League and we finish second, I'd take that, which I know sounds negative, like we should go for the title, but we need to bounce back this season. And this season is going to be very similar to our second full season on the clock, first full season on the clock, rather, where I don't think we are going to see us at our best, but we are going to see us thriving in a new system, and we are going to be exciting to watch again, and we are going to be we're not going to be predictable going forward. And I think that is something we can look forward to. We're still in transition. Next season isn't going to be us fixed. I don't think that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And let me just come on this, and we'll move on. I said after, and you make the comparison with the COVID season, and I said the same thing after that. I was on the stream. There was a lad on the pod. I think it was my own channel, to be fair. But I said to him, we're going to be back. Like, we'll sign Canate. And even then, this is crazy. I thought we was going to sign centre mids in that window. We never did. I said, we'll sign Canate, we'll sign a midfielder, and we'll be fine. And everyone laughed at me and for a quad. So I'm saying the same thing. I think we sign McAllister, we sign Kone, we get a centre back. I think, again, I'm not saying that we're going to get 90 plus points, but I think we'll be competitive. We'll be up there. And I think that's just the first step. I mean, look, a lot of people won't be happy with that, and that's fine. I've heard people saying unless we win a league or Champions League, it's a failure.
But they've never seen us where we have been. And if you know what I mean, that's Ben, you've seen it.
Yeah, of course. I mean? I was not more than happy, but last season for me, I couldn't believe that people were calling that a failure. To be honest, that's a completely different conversation. But I think I still trust the manager as always. You know, he's an absolute world class manager, one of the best ever, and we're still lucky to have him. He could have left when the going got tough. He could have said, you know what, I've actually had enough. But he's still here. The board still are happy with him, because let's be honest, they could have sacked him, and if any other club were as bad as we've been this season and they sacked the manager, I don't think people could have had too many complaints. But clearly the board still see he's the man that's fit to take this club back to where he got us. And exactly, Shigz, that's the question I've always asked these people. If you're willing to let him go, who are you bringing in? And they're like, there we are then. There's no one. But
I think if
we're
we
going
win
to have
our
a good
first
window.
3 games of the season, that we will go on a proper title run. But if we draw or lose any of the first 3 games, then forget it. We'll be going for second or for Champions League.
I
think we're a momentum team.
I would, but do you guys think? It sounds bad. This sounds like a waiting game. I don't think that Manchester City are going to be stopped until Pep leaves. I think when Pep leaves City, I do think we're going to see City become the type of City we've seen.
Stop them, mate.
Yeah, that's very true.
Man City are like Thanos.
Literally. Yeah, are we? You trying to say we're Iron Man because this season we were like Ant Man? So
who's the only team to stop them? We're the only team. The only team. If it wasn't for us, this would be Liga Un.
No, I get that. Listen, I get that. And he's saying it would be if it weren't for us. I agree, but I think there's a heavier debate to have here just about Pep Guardiola as a manager, because I know. Listen, of course, everyone can talk about Man City being, Man City have done this, they broke all the laws in the world, but which they might have done. I don't want to say they have, because currently it's all legality, and listen, until it comes out, I'm not going to be one to do it, right? What's the whole innocent till proven guilty? Until they finish paying off the PFA.
Emails, mate.
Let's move on from Man City. Wrap up, Mark, and then we'll go on to.
Yeah, let's just get to the window. Let's see what happens. If we go for the title, we go for the title. Personally, I don't see it yet.
I just want to briefly touch on some awards, and there's not going to be many awards given out. They definitely haven't had an award ceremony for the season. But I just want us to briefly do it because we've been going on for over an hour. We've still got some transfer stuff to talk about as well. So just going to go around one by one, asking everybody for their player of the season, and I think it's pretty unanimous who that is going to be. Mine is our very handsome number 1, Alisson Becker. Shigz.
I'm going to go with Henderson. No, I'm joking. I'm going to say Alisson. Yeah, I'm going to go Alisson as well. Alisson.
Craig.
Yeah, Alisson, but I will say that two moments in the season he did break my heart as well. It's like, no, not you. You're the only one that's doing well.
Alisson. It's all around Alisson, isn't it?
So there we go. Alisson Becker is the TAT player of the season. I'm sure that's up there with the prestigious awards that he's won in his career. Young player of the season. Now, I'm torn between this one, but I am going to give it to Stefan Bajcetic because
what's the age?
Just 23 and under.
Okay.
I feel like for me it was between Bajcetic and Jones, but I just feel like when Bajcetic came into the team, there was nobody knew what was going to happen. Nobody had any sort of expectation that he was going to be our best midfielder at the age. I think he was actually 17 or maybe just 18 when he started coming into the team. I'd never seen him play apart from like glimpses in pre-season, and just seeing how he conducted himself in those games until he got the horrible season-ending injury, which I was absolutely gutted. And I think that's the point where when he got that injury, and I was at work at the time and seen the news come through, I was just gutted because this kid had done so well to come in the team, make that spot his own, play like he'd been in the team for years. And now all of a sudden, an 18-year-old kid gets injured for the season. And I'm genuinely sat here thinking, what are we going to do? And for me, that was when I thought, you know what? The fact that I'm this angry and upset, that tells me that this kid is the real deal. And I will say that everyone will go on about midfielders, and rightfully so. We need 2 or 3. But don't sleep on how good this kid is, because he is incredible. Shigz, who's your young player of the season, mate?
I slightly percentage obviously is a chip leader just in terms of what he did when he came in, but I want to give it already mentioned Elliott, because even though he's not set the world alight, he did come in for a number of games and was kind of like not instrumental, but done his job. And for us this season, not enough people did that. And as a young player coming into a struggling team, there's only a lot of the time he played, he done his job. So I'll give it to percentage, but I'll give it honorary shout out to Harvey Elliott as well. I'm kind of disappointed on a bit of a sour note that Carvalho didn't get the time he should have, but hey, that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, no, of course. Craig?
I had a big thought about this because it was tough, as you're saying about Bajcetic. Just the lack of, because his season ended early and it took him a while to get into the team. I was actually wanted to give the Young Player of the Year award to Elliott because he had the fullest season and he did okay and he did pretty well for his age in it. And then give 2 breakout of awards, one for Jones and one for Bajcetic for either side of the season. I thought Bajcetic was our breakout star and could have been our player of the season if he kept playing the whole year. But when it gets cut that early, and I then thought Jones picked up the mantle after that. So I want to give the 2 lads a good shout. But yeah, I think Elliott, he has exactly what Shigz is saying. He didn't set the world alight, but he definitely was a big part. He earned his keep. So I think he definitely needs a shout in there as well.
Yeah, just before Mike gives his, I'm not mad at that at all. I think Elliott is very heavily criticised, and I think young players definitely see the stuff that's written about them 100%. Because when you're young, when you're fresh, you are naturally going to look for it, like you are. So I think I would urge people to just lay off him just a bit. Like, of course, if he's not your cup of tea, of course we want better players than him to start for us. We want the best team we could possibly have. But I've always said for Harvey Elliott, there's a space in our squad for him, and even more so now that we're going to be in the Europa League, you can easily play every game in that competition. But Mike, who's yours, mate?
Yeah, I'm actually going to say Harvey Elliott. And the reason I'm saying Harvey Elliott now, I've got I'll stick with the staunch defence for him, to be honest. I think he's adapting to somewhat of a new position on the right side of the 3. When he was playing there originally and got injured, it was a different role. It was a slightly different role he was playing in that 3. He was then asked to play the Henderson role in the 3, which is different to what he was originally playing. And I thought, although defensively at times he was caught out, although offensively at times maybe his decision-making was questionable, that play, he gave everything. He never didn't, you know what I mean? He 100% ran himself into the ground every single game. Might not have always been a great performance, but he never stopped trying. And I think there is a real player in there. I think when I say a real player, I mean a real quality player, a top 4 quality player, and a player that at times should start for us. I've got nothing but love for Harvey Elliott, and I hope that he can find his path in this team and consistently develop, because there's a reason Klopp trusts him and chose to trust him for as long as he did. And Elliott playing in the confident Liverpool side is a very exciting player. And I think next season, hopefully, same with Jones, we'll see that. We'll see the best of them. And of course, obviously, shout out to Stefan Bajcetic and Curtis Jones, like was said by the other 2 as well. I think they were both fantastic at different points of the season. I'm sure if Stefan stayed fit as well, he probably would have been mine. Jones is just an exciting player. It's a second breakout season for him, and I think thankfully he's able to shut up a lot of armchair critics on social media.
I was one of them. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, bro, I was one of them. put my hands up.
Sorry,
yeah.
I gotta get this in there before on the podcast.
Oh, here we go.
In the 0-0 Chelsea match, I put out a tweet before Jones's run saying Jones is going to have a better career than Enzo Fernandez from here on out.
Right,
and
okay.
I've been proven right so far.
Enzo did win the World Cup, in fairness.
Yeah, Enzo won the World Cup, and it's been 2
onward.
From this point onwards,
right.
Okay. You didn't give it the caveat as well. We understand. We understand.
Let's get on
we
to...
can edit that out. Edit that out for Craig's sake.
Yeah, listen, let's...
I'll stand by it. Enzo made
Let's move on to the good
decision,
stuff, guys. Because I just put a tweet out saying that transfer talk is coming up, and we've just had loads of people join. So let's not keep it waiting. This is the stuff everybody wants to discuss. We've spoken about the absolute disaster of a season for long enough. Let's get on to some exciting news. I'm pretty sure everybody's fed up of seeing this lad is about to sign for us, but it looks like it is going to be done very, very soon. And let me just say, when it is done, we have a stream lined up with a Brighton podcast who's going to come on here, and we're going to talk about Alexis McAllister, the player, what he can bring to Liverpool, all that kind of stuff. So Fabrizio Romano says, Liverpool plan for Alexis McAllister deal, complete player side details this week. Personal terms are almost agreed, then finalise the deal next week. Bearing in mind, this was the 31st of May. We're now on Friday, so the days are, we're ticking off the days here. It's getting closer and closer. Liverpool are prepared to pay the exit clause that is less than the reported 70 million if all goes to plan on player side. And then he quoted it and said, McAllister to Liverpool will cost way less than the 65-70 million. As said yesterday, fixed amount to sign from Brighton is not that high. The plan is to complete him next week. And again, this was on the 1st of June, so this was yesterday. Shigz, first of all, mate, we've seen this lad play against us. We've seen him ball out in the World Cup final. We've seen what he can do. We've seen him score a winning clutch goal penalty against Manchester United. Is this a signing that excites you to come to our team?
Very much so. I just hope he lives it. I just hope he plays to his namesake that also joined Liverpool. If he plays anything like the first McAllister,
Gary.
Listen, we've got a winner there.
Gary Mako. What a guy.
Maybe he'll help us win the Europa League like the other McAllister did. You know, who knows?
I shaved the head.
Yeah, but no. Listen, you've seen what he's about. Good on the ball, smart, intelligent, can play a good through ball. That we don't really have that. Naby was supposed to be that, but his body couldn't hold up to the rigors. Hopefully, McAllister's body can, and he can be pulling the strings and playing those through balls for Nunes. Because I hope this signing will help Nunes in terms of his goal contribution next season as well. So yeah, it's a sign that we've all wanted, and I just can't wait for it to happen. I'm not sure. Are they going to give him the number 10 jersey? Because he was at 10. He was number 10 at Brighton, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'd assume that he will take that because it is free.
And
I'm
happy with it.
Yeah, coming to you, Craig. Shigz has touched on it, and if he's any half as good as our previous number 10s, Mane and Coutinho, we won't go far wrong, will we?
No. He's a lovely player to watch, and that's one of them. It's nice to have when you have your workhorses, you can appreciate them and things like that. But when someone's easy on the eye, as well as all that, it just makes things a little bit easier. But yeah, like all the boxes we've been missing this year, especially, he'll be ticking it. Just because I think there's times when we just needed a bit more calmness, but also a bit of precision as well. So he really is ticking all the boxes, and yeah, really looking forward to him just fitting into the system and taking us 3 steps forward. I hope 4 steps forward. What position do we finish in?
I know what you're saying. Mike, what are you saying, mate? Do you think this is a player that fits the way that we're currently playing? Do you think we might have to tweak a couple of things? Like, as a player, how do you see this guy fitting in for us?
I think he's going to fit in seamlessly. I think Henderson's very much been occupying the role we're going to see him in. I see him on the right side, linking up with Salah and Trent. I think technically he's just phenomenal. His ball retention ability is incredible. He's press resistant. He's a hard worker. His injury list is short, which is obviously nice to see for a Liverpool midfielder, or soon to be, hopefully. And him getting number 10 shirt, I think kind of shows the kind of trust we have in him. I think he's going to be a player that isn't a concern. I think he's going to be consistent for us. I think you can guarantee hard work out of him, which is important. And the way we try and play with high pressing football, he's got the legs for it. Which as we were discussing earlier in the pod, something we severely lacked for the last season. So yeah, very excited for him to sign.
How old is he?
Yeah, 24. Yeah,
Oh,
24.
man, happy days.
That's what I mean. Prime
Perfect
years.
day.
Prime years.
Yeah. My opinion is that, I agree with everything you guys have said. I think he's more, in terms of who we currently have, he's more similar to how Thiago would play. And I think I said this before on the podcast. I think obviously getting the players in that are going to run the whole game and are going to be good defensively and good off the ball, which he is. But I think getting somebody on the level of Thiago's ability, and I'm not saying he's there yet, but I think it's equally as important because we've gone on season by season by season relying on Thiago's fitness, waiting for this guy to come back. Because I still think next season Thiago will be our best midfielder. I still don't think anybody's going to come in and take that away from him. And if they do, wow, what a player! But I just feel like this signing for me just makes so much sense because Thiago's coming into his the final year, I think, of his contract. And if we have this guy up and running by the time Thiago leaves, because I'm pretty sure he's not going to get an extension, then we'll be absolutely fine. But yeah, that's my piece, and I'm absolutely buzzing for this guy. And my opinion is that it will be done soon. That's not any information that the Anfield Talk have had. It's just based on me looking at all the reports that we've seen. Fabrizio is adamant that it's going to be done by sometime next week. So let's just see where that goes. The next story is there's three more players we need to talk about. So we best get a move on. Shigz, you were dead excited when I briefly mentioned this guy's name earlier. Liverpool are informed that the price tag for Manu Kone as talks took place this week. The midfielder could be available for 35 to 40 million. We made a spelling mistake there. The Reds are working to complete McAllister deal, and then Kone is on the list. So essentially what Fabrizio's saying here, mate, is we're going to tick McAllister off and then go, right, let's go get Kone. So what are you saying about that?
As Mike said, no one's seen this guy play. I haven't either. And I'm going off what I've seen on YouTube and stuff like that. But we need somebody that has energy. We need somebody that can carry the ball because maybe Harvey, who in our midfield can carry the ball? A genuine question. I'm not even trying to troll.
It's Gakpo, isn't it, when he drops deep?
No, I'm talking about from the midfield, as in.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if there's anybody that's going to do it, it would be Gakpo when he drops deep and then carries the ball forward. That's how bad it is. Our midfielders.
It goes from Matip to Gakpo.
Yeah,
Matip was the one that carried it out of defense, and then we've got no one in midfield that can do it.
Yeah. So again, I'm only going off foot compilations, and sometimes they lie, but he looks like he's a bit of a live wire in midfield, and we've needed that for a while. We need somebody that's not just get the ball and pass it. Let me have a go at somebody. Let me take somebody in and go past them. Like that's what I'm so more excited about. That we have a midfielder that is not just we know what he's gonna do. He's gonna get the ball and pass. No, you don't. He's gonna get the ball, maybe a drop and shoulder and go past someone, and then commit other people, which frees up other space for our attackers. Because if this season what we were guilty of, no one in our midfield was beating a man. It was always pass. Maybe there's an opening. Trent will make a pass and someone get through. Sometimes you have to commit other players in order to create other space for other people. And hopefully this guy will be able to do it. And he can play in the six as well. So if Fabinho's having a stinker, Fabinho can hit the bench and realize, look at himself. And this guy can kind of take a leading role. Maybe not at the beginning of the season, but just know the midfielders know that if we don't play up to a level, we're going to be on the bench. So that's why I'm hoping we get him in as well.
No, I agree. I completely agree. Just before we continue, guys, there's 36 people in here. Please make sure you smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel for more regular Liverpool content. We're also dropping videos on the channel as well, just short videos summarising transfer news and all of that stuff. So make sure you drop a subscription. It costs you nothing. It supports one of your favourite, which I'm assuming if you're tuned into the stream, you're a fan of TAT. So please support us. Please help us out. It would mean a lot. Craig, I'm the same as Shigz, mate. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I watch Bundesliga on a Friday night or whenever it's on. I know very little in terms of what I've seen in a full 90 of Kone. Again, I have done a bit of research over the last couple of days. I've watched the old YouTube compilations, which Shigz says rightfully so. Sometimes they lie. But what I've read about this guy is that he is like very good defensively, but also on the ball, he's also, top quality as well. So how important do you think it would be for us if we got this guy in to have those almost two attributes into one?
Oh, massive, yeah. But I think the big thing for me here is watching this price tag just kind of go down and down and down as time goes on, which is lovely to see. But I think he is, from what I've seen or the bits and bobs. Again, I'm not going to pretend I watch him week in, week out, but definitely a work in progress. Like a nice canvas to work off. You have the physicality. He loves duels. Like he's one of the highest. Got one of the highest duel stats going in the Bundesliga, which is what we're missing massively, because if you have the people dueling, you can at least get the ball back, and even if you're not on form with the ball, you can kind of make your chances. But our big issue this year was just not getting the ball back as well before we were then crap in attack. So no, like I'd love to see it. I'm not overly convinced with him on the ball. I know he has the attributes to go on with it, but I think that's the area that he will need to work on with us more. But yeah, the physicality and just the presence in midfield would be huge. I will say I'm a big fan of Thuram. I know that's obviously on the way. So I'll shut up. I'll shut up about Kone because I can't say too much more than what I've said already.
Yeah, Mike, I'm going to give you this, mate, and then we'll all come back together and discuss it. But Fabrizio then goes on to say, when was this? This was today, that Liverpool have held direct contacts with both the agents of Manu Kone and Khafram Thuram. But then he goes on to say that there is a feeling that Manu Kone is an easier deal because of the low fee. Absolute shock horror with Liverpool. But Khafram Thuram will be more expensive, and it is unclear if Liverpool want both as of now. Would you be in favour of getting both? Do you think that we need one more than the other? Like, how are you seeing these two play out, mate?
Okay, so when I look at these two players, Kone's more of a 6. Like, if anyone's looking at Kone thinking he's going to be a goal scorer midfielder or he's going to be creative, it's not his game. It's not his game. He breaks up play, right? I think we do need that kind of player. We do. But we also need players like Thuram. We actually are crying out for a player like Thuram, because Thuram, although he is similar in that respect, I wouldn't expect Thuram to come into our team and score 8 to 10 goals in a season. I don't think that's his game either. I think his game is probably similar to that of a Gini Wijnaldum, in the sense that ball retention, phenomenal. The ability to drive through midfield. Yeah, the ability to drive through midfield and turn defense to attack in just a sprint. That's the kind of players that the three profiles that we have here in McAllister, Thuram, and Kone, their similarities are their ability to drive with the ball retention, and quality in that respect. Thuram and Kone, phenomenal in terms of their defensive attributes, especially for such young ages. They're both 22. So if you look at these profiles, like, it's very clear that we are looking at certain players that I'd probably say we've always lacked under Klopp. Probably only had when we've had Thiago and Gini, because I wouldn't put Fabinho or Henderson in the category of what I've just described. So it's interesting to see that we're linked with both. I'd like to see us sign both. I think we'd benefit from signing both massively, because in those tighter games where we need to press high and we need to just break teams up, these guys would be perfect. And that's what we need. We need that high energy. I think they bring that. I think they're also both being 22, McAllister being 24. You're getting 6 to 8 years, absolute prime time, develop them under Klopp. You wouldn't have to rush them into the 11, or at least not both into the 11 straight away. Embed them in like we did Fabinho, embed them in like we did Robertson. And yeah, I'd love to see us get both. You get Kone for 25, 30, and talking to around probably 40. You're spending 120 mil on 3 top midfielders. This then comes back to those 3 or Bellingham. I think it's really apparent. No, I'm only bringing that up just for the sake of...
No, that was my question for Shigz. That was my question.
I'll beat you to it. I'm not even going to answer it. Give it to Shigz.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And Shigz, I was just going to come in and ask you, mate, to wrap up on these 2 players here. Well, 3. I put this tweet out the other day and it was absolutely unanimous in terms of the response. But you're going for a Jude Bellingham for 100 mil or more plus 300 grand a week, or these 3, in terms of what we've seen for Liverpool this season. Because I've always said Jude Bellingham is a dream. Of course, we all were hoping we signed him. But I think, looking back in hindsight, Jude Bellingham's a player that you add to a team like Man City or Real Madrid. Exactly, who are already there. But when your team's as broken as we are, mate, and everything's just an absolute mess, getting these 3 is surely much better value for money, isn't it?
All day. Like, it's all day. Like, listen, all respect to Jude, he's a quality player.
Unbelievable
But let me
player.
ask all three of you: if we get Jude and miss out on these three players, does anything change in the Liverpool team?
We do get better, but I agree.
We get one
it's not
player.
enough.
One player.
He would.
Fabinho midfield still.
No, he would improve our team as we speak. I'm not saying we'd.
I not to the point where we could get back to.
We wouldn't go through a quad again. No. But he would improve us. But again, I'm not gonna sit here and say that if we sign Jude, we magically turn.
When we found out we weren't going for him, I was a little bit annoyed because you knew how much he was going to cost for how long. But this is a very good alternative, and it covers more bases in terms of us being able to make the changes in game. If we're losing a game, we can bring one of these midfielders on, or both of them on, to try and open up the game. If we're winning, we can bring this guy on, one of these guys, to shore up the game. So it's a win-win. I hope they do get all three of them. I hope they do, because look, 3 into 1. Instead of paying 120 for one player, we can pay 130 for 3 players, and they're all quality players as well. So it's a bit of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and apparently the reason why Kone is going to be so cheap is because Gladbach need to sell him. They're in a bit of financial difficulty, I think I've read.
Did you see the revelation today about the new sporting director in
Yes,
Borussia?
Go on, Craig, take it away.
So, okay, we got to get the name right. This is the first time saying it.
I just call him George, and I don't know his brother.
Yeah, George Smagta. So his brother he was a scout in Borussia Mönchengladbach. He is now might be promoted up into sporting director.
Oh, sweet. Them brown envelopes, yeah?
Family discount and all of that.
Yeah.
Imagine that around the dinner table. You know what I mean? Can we get 5 mil off Kone? Right, I'll do the dishes. 5 mil off Kone.
Yeah.
Mate, he's not doing the dishes. He's telling a joke. Get it right, mate.
Oh, yeah, he's telling a joke.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. I echo everything you guys have said. I think getting these two, because what would Catherine be? I think they've said 50, 60 mil. Kone's 25, 30, so that's 80. And then you add 50, 60 for McAllister. That barely comes up to 150. So 100% it makes sense to get them all relatively low wages as well.
I think Hamza's corrected me to say it's his son.
It's his son, yeah.
Even better.
Okay.
Even better.
So,
you're grounded.
Don't come around the house no more. All right, you're not around the house.
Well, I think what I was saying is these guys are all going to be low wages as well. Like, these guys will probably be on 50 grand max. I don't even think Kone will be on anywhere near that, to be fair. So it's brilliant in terms of that sense. We've freed up. We all know how much money we've just freed up. Naby's on at least 200. Milner was on, I think he took a pay cut, to be fair. Ox was on 100 and something. Firmino was on a lot as well. Yeah, so we've freed up a lot of money. So I think it definitely makes sense. But there's also one more guy we need to talk about. Another big link that's come out. And again, it's George using his sources. George Schmach, just George, will hold talks with Wolfsburg in the coming weeks regarding the future transfer of Mickey van der Ven to Liverpool. The German club asked for 40 million euros for the centre-back, with Jurgen Klopp as a huge fan. I don't know if you guys have seen that clip.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen how quick this guy is.
Thing is, underrated as well. So you got that clip, which obviously incredible, the speed he's got. Go look at his other highlights this season. This is a proper centre-back, man. He's left-sided, which is Ben. What was I saying the last two? What are we at? Come on. Listen, I don't get much credit in much things, but I've been saying we needed this, and this is exciting to know this is what we're after properly. It's a left-sided centre-back. Say that again?
He's a massive guy as well.
Bro, 6'4". Like, what was it set pieces next season? This should be a dream for Trent. We got like 4 or 5 players at 6'4", potentially.
That was my only issue with McAllister. Is like, he's kind of ruining our vibe of buying loads of new small players. Because like our set pieces are just getting better year on year as well. So yeah, that was sad. But the two lads, they rock the set pieces going forward.
It's going to be exciting. I think what's interesting as well is he can play left back. So you think
that's massive if we're going to carry on this new system, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was going to say, Shigz, think of that transition, right? Into that forward formation where Robbo's dropped a lot deeper now, and we almost play that 3 centre backs. You have him there. Suddenly, if he's able to cover that left hand side in the same way we have Kanate covering the right hand side, it's a lot more balanced, and that back post suddenly gets a lot more coverage because people are shifting over, and it's a lot more fluid instead of Robinson having to play this makeshift. And I think that's exciting because Van Dijk then comes to the middle, maybe gets less exposed as a result as well because he's been exposed a few times this season. So I'm excited by that. I'm really excited by it. If we bring him in, I'm very excited by that.
What are you guys saying on it? Same thing?
Listen, I was so when I saw that when I saw him do that spin. Because I was trying to find out which one, and then when they circled it, I said, "Nah, he was winging." I said, "All right, come. Listen, I'll take that any day of the week."
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say what Hamza put in there. He's a Liverpool fan as well, so like that'd be massive.
There's a picture of him and his dad at Anfield. I don't know if you've seen it.
They're at the Arsenal game. Yeah, different Arsenal game, but like an Arsenal game.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah, and look, all of those guys would come up to probably just below 200 maybe if we sign them all. I'm not saying we're going to sign them all. There's still a big question mark as to if we're going to sign one of the two of the midfielders. But McAllister will come through. That's going to happen. I've just put my neck on the line there, haven't I? But that is going to happen. I'm pretty certain. If it doesn't, I'm going to deactivate on Twitter. But I think it will.
On the line there, haven't you?
Yeah. But guys, we're just going to wrap up because we're going on for a long time. But I just want to give you guys the chance to just briefly give any early shouts for next season, really, before we wrap up. So, Shigz, what are you saying? If we have that window with those players that we just discussed, where do you realistically see us like coming next season? What do you see us doing? Do you see this new system that Klopp's brought in like as a long-term thing?
All those players.
Yeah, say we sign them all.
We win the Europa League.
Oh, if we don't win that, then
no. But I don't think we, as our current squad stands, it's not a given that we. If we get those 4 players, then we go win it. There's no.
Sevilla could still be in it again. So
we owe them. We owe them.
No. I don't want to. Hang on. I don't want to do this. We owe this team. No.
I know. But I'm saying that if we Europa League. I'm torn between second and third.
Bro was so deep in thought, we all thought he froze.
No. I'm saying with those players, if we get all those players, we win the Europa League, and depending how we start the league, if we win in all our first 3 games, we go on to finish second. If we don't, we finish third. And maybe have a good FA Cup run, semi-final kind of thing. That's why I see.
As a man who is going to be in the country where the Europa League finalists, mate, is that something that you're desperate to see Liverpool get to?
Yeah, Dublin,
massive, yeah. I'm buying the tickets anyway.
I'm booking a flight soon. As soon as I see the date, I'm booking a flight.
Yeah, Craig, I'm sleeping on the sofa.
All right. I'm not going to dox where I live right now, but yeah, I'll get you. But the big thing, do not book hotels because Dublin is insanely expensive without any events being on. So just a pre-warning, when Klopp says book the hotels, he's got a really good idea. But yeah, no,
hopefully he doesn't say it this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, I feel like Europa. I'm not. I want us to win it. I feel like we do, but I'm not going to judge our season off the Europa League. I think European competition, anything can happen. And the injuries could come at the wrong time. You never know. And I don't think it's going to make or break our season. But I feel like we'll judge ourselves on the league table first and foremost, and that will show us how much we've improved from this year. So I'm backing us to go second or first, and I just think that really depends on things that are out of our control. So like, Haaland takes an injury, we win the league. If not, but you never know. Like, as in, we could say this now, and the whole defense could just drop on the first day of the season, and then we'd all look like tools. Or else we could just do what we did a few years ago and just smash it from the start, and everyone's just given up before the month of September is even done. But yeah, no, I'm positive, and I really just think that the first few games of the season will set the tone, and hopefully we won't be looking for answers in January.
Absolutely, Mike.
Yeah, I think next season, I think Salah's again gonna do 20 goals and 10 plus assists in the Prem. I'm not worried about that. I think we'll finish second. I think we'll give it a run. I don't think we'll come as close to the league as people think. I think Europa League is going to be a lot harder than people think as well. I think you got to remember, third place in the Champions League dropped out, because we got to be careful with this, because like all it takes is a Barcelona or a Madrid. Watch Madrid finish third in the group. Like, watch it happen. no, you're laughing. I'm calling it, man. Madrid are seeing us in Europa League.
Oh my God, I'm sick of that team.
Half their squad off to Saudi, right?
Say what?
I think Benzema and Modric have been linked out to Saudi Arabia in the last week or so, and it looks like
exactly. So no, because what Jude Bellingham against us in the quarters, I can see it. It's fine.
Allow it, Mike.
Sorry, Shigz, I'm just giving you nightmares, isn't it? But so listen, I think a good run in Europa League. I want to see us get to the finals. I want to see us win it, obviously. I want to see us do well in all the cup competitions. I really do. I think if we sign, I don't expect anything less than quarters in every single one. And I think if we get to the quarters, just because of how we are as a team, I'd expect us to go a lot further. The main thing for me next season is a successful season for me is 1 trophy minimum, but also seeing our identity back and seeing players playing positive football and seeing a smile on players' faces. I know that sounds so quite simple and mundane, but I don't want to see our fan base or our players look like they have this season again. I want us to look back on the up. I want everyone to see the direction, because this season we've all felt directionless. So I'm hoping we can see that. I think there's a lot of potential in this team. I'm hoping Nunes has a breakout season. I'd love to see him find his feet. I'm curious to see how we work it with him and Gakpo. But I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited for next season. So, yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I 100% agree, mate. I think I always believe that it's never as bad as you think. And, of course, we've had a terrible season. But apart from Man City, each and every single one of our rivals and teams that have been with us along the way have had a spell in Europa League, every single one of them. So for us to get our first since Jurgen Klopp came in, since that first season, which we weren't in it because of him, by the way, it was what happened before. You know, it's just our turn. Like, it is what it is. Like, football comes around in cycles, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to be back. It doesn't mean that this is the end. In fact, this is what everyone's been saying is going to be like a Klopp 2.0. And that's exciting because, we saw how Klopp built the first team, signing Gini Wijnaldum from Newcastle and Mane from Southampton. And I know Firmino was already there when he came in, but he comes from Hoffenheim. Salah comes from Roma. We never went out and signed the big superstars. I know we got Thiago a bit later on, but, it was just amazing to see him build the team. So if there's anybody I trust to build a team that's going to come and do it again, it's Jurgen Klopp. So for me, again, I want to win the Europa League. I'm not going to disrespect it just because we're in it. I'm not going to say, we're too good for it, because we're not. That's the level we're at now. That, we have to remember that we're there for a reason. That's our standard as it is. Doesn't mean that has to be our standard for a long time. So again, we have a successful summer window. We go for all the trophies. We go for a title charge. If the other trophies are getting in the way of the league, then I would say just focus on the league. Let's try and finish high up in the league. I think that is always the priority. Yeah. Well, I would still like to go for the Europa League if we're in the knockouts. But if we are in a title race, then yeah, I agree with you. Don't do it, Arsenal. But guys, we'll have a better season next season. There's absolutely no doubt about it. This team always finds a way to come back, and we'll be just fine. But before we wrap up for the end of this season, I just want to thank every single person that's been on the podcast, whether you've been on loads like Shigz, whether you've just joined the team like Mike and Craig, whether you just made one brief appearance. Also, every single person that's been watching, there's 30 in here right now. It's an absolute pleasure to do this with an amazing group of lads. The Anfield Talk, and I'm not just saying this because I'm part of it. It is the best Liverpool account out there, and this is just the beginning for us. There's so much exciting stuff that's coming, which we can't talk about just yet, but just stick with us, keep going, and when the fixtures get announced, we'll be able to give you guys an idea of when the preview shows are coming as well, with the guests from other clubs. There's some decent guests coming on as well, which again I'm not going to disclose yet. But just before I do go, Badale says we want Josh. Big up to Josh, by the way. Josh is he's taken Twitter by storm over the last few weeks, and again, it's a joy to have him as part of the team. And Footy Boy says big up to great signing, mate. Big up you as well, Footy Boy. And guys, all I can say now, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you when some signings get announced. Take care.
Thanks, people.